Hey folks, welcome to another edition of PosiTIPS with Rachelle. Folks, it is always great to be here with you on another episode, and this is the final episode in this series of PosiTIPS with Rachelle, and concluding this important series entitled What's Your Problem? What's Your Problem? So I've spent the last three episodes, three different ways, three different methods of attack, coming at this key issue of what's your problem, and how in life many people spin their wheels, waste an incredible amount of time, effort, and money trying to solve symptoms of problems, but not the problems themselves. So it's so important that we address the real problem. Have the courage, have the confidence, because it's not going to be easy in most cases, and recognize what can be done differently. But it's got to emanate, but it's got to come from an inner belief, an inner knowing that you deserve good things in life. If you don't believe that you deserve happiness or success or peace or well-being, health and wellness, it just, you got to work on your manner of thinking. You got to work on what you believe, all right? And so, I love to quote Dr. Phil on this, and I learned just this important concept where he talks about your personal truth, okay? In life, we get the results that we believe we deserve, paraphrasing him. So if you believe you deserve mediocrity and unhappiness and chaos, congratulations, that is exactly what you're going to get. And I never want that to be you. So that's why I get on here time after time after time to really encourage you to change your manner of beliefs. If you've got negative mindsets, negative belief patterns, change those. You can't change your life until you change your thinking. And so when we think about, as I'm concluding this episode, I'm going to talk about what am I going to, how can I close out this series that can really drive this point home of what's your problem. And I think that many problems that we experience in life stems from a lack of authenticity. And let me tell you what I mean by that. So what's your problem? Being inauthentic. You're just not real. You're living your life based on what you think society thinks you should do, be, have, or perhaps a family member, whatever. Just essentially living a lie. There's no other way to say that. Essentially living a lie. And I think we've all been there at some point in our lives. And so I've certainly been there professionally. I'm going to share an example here on a personal note on this particular episode, because we can talk about this relationally. There's a whole lot of relational lies happening, where people in relationships that are dead, that died essentially a long time ago, and people are just existing. They're not doing anything to breathe new life into the relationships, but they're too afraid to either fix the problems in the relationships or exit the relationship. But don't want to get into all of that. That will take way too much time than what I have allotted for this episode. But this episode, I want to focus exclusively on the professional side, professional authenticity. We spend so much time, so many working hours of our lives in the workplace. All right, whether that be, again, it may be an entrepreneur working for him or herself, or someone working in a major Fortune 500 corporation. It doesn't matter. All right, this professional aspect of our lives is so important. We spend so much time there, and I think it's so important that we be filled with a sense of passion and purpose and enthusiasm and peace about what we do, about what we're doing, and to making a difference in the world in terms of our professional lives. And I know, for me personally, thinking about, Jim Collins, I love the Jim Collins book on, Good to Great. And he makes 3 points that I often highlight many times on Fitness Fridays. And there's just many wonderful points in that book where he had a research team that studied several companies that were able to make the leap to go from being good companies to great companies. So there's a lot of different things that they did, a lot of different behaviors and traits and activities that they identified. But, three quick points that I always like to highlight from that book, just a huge takeaway for me in terms of what I do professionally. And that is, you just imagine a leader driving a bus, whether it be a Fortune 500 CEO or an entrepreneur driving his or her own company bus, whatever the case may be. So you have the leader driving the bus to the final destination, whether that be best places to work, number one in our industry, Fortune 500, whatever the case may be. All right, so driving this bus. So driving this bus as a leader towards whatever your vision is, number one, you want to have the right people on the bus. Do these people believe in you? Do they support you in your vision and your leadership, your mission, your purpose, the journey? All right, number two, do you have the right people in the right seats? All right, Sometimes there's problems in the workplace, and this is something I want to challenge you today. Ask yourself, in the workplace, am I on the right bus? Do I want to be with this company or organization? Or am I existing? Or am I just here essentially getting a paycheck? You could care less about the organization. You could care less about the future and the vision and anything else. They're paying me and I don't care. All right, because study after study has shown, particularly around HR and human resources, is that most employees are not engaged. And so that means they're there to get a paycheck and nothing else. I mean, as sad as that sounds, that is the absolute truth. So you have a lot of an epidemic of disengaged employees. All right, so if you don't want to be on the bus, I mean, you're faking it. That's not a good situation to be in. If you're in the wrong seat, number two, you gotta have the right people in the right seat. Are you in the right seat? Because if you're unhappy, if you're dreading going to work, if you hate Mondays, if you love Fridays and the weekends, because you can get a break from the place, you gotta ask yourself, am I on the right bus? Am I in the right seat? All right. Number three, you want to get the wrong people off the bus. These companies that were successful from going good to great got the wrong people off the bus. All right. So there could be performance-based metrics. There could also be certainly, natural attrition where people do it themselves, disciplinary issues where people are terminated or fired, but getting the wrong people off the bus. And so I challenge you to say, are you on the right bus? Are you in the right seat? Or do you need to get off the bus that you're on? Do you need to go and join another organization or a different corporation or company? Do you need to go and start your own business? Would that be the right seat for you? Based on your knowledge and expertise and all of this and that. So we've really got to ask ourselves. I mean, there's so much unhappiness in the workplace, in various workplaces, all types. And I really think, Jim Collins, they were on to something here. And it's just such a simple concept. Who's on the bus? The right people in the right seats. The wrong people, I get the wrong people off the bus. And so when I think about my own professional journey, and I've been on some buses and I've gotten off, I've changed buses, I've been in some wrong seats. And so I too have had to make these decisions, but that's, I think, the difference now. I think when I hit about age 35, actually 34, I just made a decision, I'm not going to be wasting my time doing, in a professional sense. I'm doing it in a personal sense too, in a relational sense too. I'm not going to be wasting time with stuff that isn't working, where it's just not a good fit. Just bite the bullet and move on, go in a different direction. Obviously be tactful and respectful and honor people in situations and organizations where you do that. But life is too short to go through it not being happy. And so when you think professionally, there's assessments, there's questionnaires, there's surveys that can be done. You may have done Myers-Briggs, StrengthsFinder, DISC profile, all of that. And so this is actually when the beginning of my career. I had just finished got my second graduate degree from Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. And so this was my own, I'm very big in personal development, always have been. So this was a class that I took, Essential Executive Series on Persuasion and Influence. This was at Hennepin Community College. And so part of it was actually included the DISC profile. So I've taken this and Myers-Briggs and StrengthsFinder. I've taken a number of those over the course of my career. And so what did mine show? Even at the beginning of my career, I'm a high D. And so that's the dominance. And so remember, a high D may want authority, challenges, prestige, freedom, varied activities, growth assignments, bottom line approach, opportunity for advancement. And so this right here, and you think about, if you're struggling professionally and you just, no matter where you go, you can't seem to be happy. And I was just challenged, how well do you know yourself? What's your level of self-awareness? Have you done these types of assessments and surveys? And I've been at corporations, particularly on the sales side, and General Mills did it in Minneapolis too, right here at the beginning of my career, where they determine, based on your personality, your characteristics and traits and all of that, they create a profile, and where do you fit? Where do you fit? And so for me, again, you got your dominance, you got your influence, you got your cautiousness, compliance, and then your steadiness. That's what that acronym DISC stands for. And so here I am, beginning of my career, all right, and that's certainly true today. But I think what's nerdworthy about General Mills, and I've shared this on a Fitness Friday, and I've shared this in other speaking situations, and that is, I had gone to Northwestern. My goal was to be this bigwig SVP of marketing. I mean, that just represented the epitome of success to me. And I look back now, and it's just, all I can do is just kind of like, wow, Rachelle, yeah, you've really grown. You have really grown over the years. Because why? Society says you got to have this title. You got to be in this type of role. You got to be at this type of company. All right, doesn't matter if you're miserable. All right, folks, let that sink in. It doesn't matter if you're miserable or whatever the case may be. You're up there trying to keep up with somebody else or figure out what society. No, the most important person's approval that you need is your own. Is your own. Is your own. Let that sink in. All right, so as a summer intern, we had to do these personality type profiles and assessments, and so they had a psychologist that had worked with General Motors with the company a long time, Dr. Bob Bender. And so Dr. Bob Bender, the internship, the intern class, we had to do these, whatever this and that. I'll never forget. I got a call from Bob Bender saying, Rachelle, looking at your profile, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm telling you, you need to be in sales. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is what a joke. Like, I'm not listening to this. Do you realize I'm on a marketing path? I'm a Northwestern University student. I'm getting set up for success on a marketing path. That is so funny when I think about it now. But he was telling me the truth. He was telling me. He could see what I couldn't see. Number one, I didn't know myself well enough. Number two, I didn't have the confidence or inner security yet to be able to say, you know what? He's been doing this. He's been evaluating a whole lot of people. Maybe he's on to something. I didn't even consider it. Because what was I thinking? Am I going to look like a failure because I didn't pursue this marketing path and I didn't end up being an SVP? What are people going to think? What are people going to say? You spent all this money to go to this graduate school for all of this, to pursue this path, and you need to be in a whole different direction? That was my thinking then. And so how often do we get caught up with those type of thoughts, those insecure thoughts? That's all that is, insecurity. All right, and so eventually, I just blew off his advice, whatever, long story short. And so, folks, long story short on that, because it could really be, long. So ultimately ended up transitioning into sales, left Minneapolis. I was not happy in Minneapolis, and so just wasn't good a situation. And so when I think about you on a personal level, two very important things that are important to me. And I need change in my life because I get bored. And number two, freedom. And this is, if you know me personally, you will definitely be able to attest to that. I need my freedom. I don't like being tied down. And so even when I look back on my life, just again, knowing myself now, having that self-awareness and just whatever, having grown over the years in maturity. And I think back even to when I was a cashier at the Barksdale Air Force Base main exchange, when I was an undergraduate in Louisiana, and I started out actually working in the food court at a Chinese restaurant. Then I got a job inside the store as a cashier, and then I moved on to a greeter. And so, but when I was a cashier, and it just makes so much sense to me now, when it's like 2 or 3 times a week, they were calling me over the intercom system, Rachelle Smith, please return to your register. Rachelle Smith, please return to your register. Why? Because I was off on some other part of the store, talking to some of my coworkers who were working in other departments or helping other customers find stuff. Why? Because I didn't like to be tied down in that little cashier spot. So, but it's so clear. It's so clear to me now, and how much, I love sales. I loved sales. Marketing, yes, and that whole experience, that education, and that knowledge is important to me now. Yes, from a marketing consulting standpoint, absolutely. So it was never wasted time, and I think in lives we need to recognize in our lives that nothing's ever wasted. It's all education. We learn the right things, what we like, what works for us, but we also learn what's not good, what doesn't work for us. And so in a marketing role where I felt like I was chained down to a desk, and you had to make have these meetings where it took forever to get anything done, and you had to have all of the different functional areas of the company represented for a decision to even move forward. It was just move slowly, and sales enabled me to get out there, get in front of people like Dr. Bob Bender said, Rachelle, you need to be out in the field in front of customers. I'm telling you this. And I just blew him off. But then in the sales roles, I see exactly what he meant. I mean, I was free. I was able to make an impact. I was able to make a direct impact on my territory and see the results. And so it was great. I was responsible for my territory. I mean, obviously with, managerial oversight, but I was free to make decisions and run my territory, sensibly and honorably, and all of that. Wasn't able to do that in that traditional marketing role. And so think about where you are today professionally. Are you happy? What needs to change? Do you need to get off a bus like I did? Do you need to change seats like I did? I mean, I've changed some other seats as well. I don't have the time to get into all of that in my earlier years, but what I wanted to do is just share with you just the themes in our lives, the sales with Dr. Bob Bender telling me that, as a 7-year-old girl, Rachelle was speaking, in front of the congregation at Greater Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church in Gulfport, Mississippi. So, speaking is not anything. You may have discovered me with these PosiTIPS 5 years ago. I've been speaking a long time. And so that you just got to recognize these themes in terms of our purpose and our happiness. These themes are woven through our lives, but we've got to be courageous enough to pursue them, to be honest with ourselves, and just to be authentic. Say, hey, you know what? This is me. This isn't me. This works for me. This doesn't work for me. All right. And so when I think about my journey into sales and just how, what a cool experience that was. And ironically, in the DISC profile, high D's certainly is a profile that's well suited for sales. And so when I think back, this is actually my office now, and this was my my first sales job was in medical sales. So I was in pharmaceutical sales here in Metro Detroit. So I moved to Dearborn, relocated from Minneapolis to Dearborn, and my first territory was the Downriver, Michigan sales territory. And so it was so cool. And I've got some pictures here, got a little show and tell today. But this was actually our phase 2 sales training class. So this was a 3-week class in Arizona. And so here we are. We were at the University of Arizona Medical Center. And so we toured labs and just toured all of that, which is great hands-on experience. And here I am, decked out in my little, decked out there in my, white lab coat. And this was our sales training team. And so I can't remember who this guy was, but he was a sales training manager. But this right here, Doug Wolfley, was the director of the West Region Sales Training. Nanette Timby, his associate director, but so wonderful. I won a Tiger Award there for that sales training. So it was very, very positive experience. This was our very first sales meeting. We was a newly formed district, and Gina Moyer, you can't see her very well, I'm sure, but she was sitting down here. May she rest in peace. My very first sales manager was a great champion. I actually gave a motivational speech at the time. Are you in it to win it? And so these were my other sales colleagues at the meeting. You can see we've got the blackboards and all of that, flip charts. And this last one right here, I've written about him. I've spoken about him. That is Jim Howard. Jim Howard spent some years in the Navy, but then he became a registered pharmacist, and he was in pharmaceutical sales more than 30 years. Jim was my champion. Jim was my mentor. And I couldn't have asked for a better co-worker and just champion and mentor than Jim Howard. He used to role play with me, and Jim was tough. Because he was a registered pharmacist. And so I feel like I just got some great training in addition to the regular sales training, but Jim was tough. Rachelle, you can't get in front of physicians. You got to know your stuff. You can't get in front of these folks without knowing your stuff cold, as he would say. And this little note here was actually something that he wrote to me at the sales meeting, and I saved it. And I saved it all these years. I'm going to read it to you quickly. God and your work ethic have special positions of power awaiting you down the road of your life. This job will be just another entry on your impressive resume. You are definitely on the fast track because of your skills, work ethic, and willingness to sacrifice other choices. So never allow any job to wear you down. You are destined for much bigger and better things. So absolute champion. We're still in touch to this very day. We text him from time to time. He's now, well retired and loving it. And then, of course, left the pharmaceutical sales role and just had some wonderful experiences there. Had a wonderful sales manager, was a champion. I learned a lot from her, and she was just such a huge advocate and champion for me in terms of getting ahead, getting opportunities, and all of that. And so lastly, this was our Sales 1 sales training class. So this was sales folks from across the country, from different regions. We all hired in at the same time. And this is me, the lady in red in the middle. So that was me. Novartis Pharmaceuticals, Florham Park, New Jersey. And lastly, want to wrap up here with cardiovascular therapeutics. When I made the jump from pharmaceutical sales into biotech sales, cardiovascular therapeutics, this was our launch, our sales team, inaugural sales team at our product launch. This was in Scottsdale, Arizona. You can see me there on the back row wearing one of my infamous shawls, because Rachelle is always cold. So I still rock those shawls constantly. But you see here, right here is Shannon Rafferty. She was our division sales manager, and so we were all represented various territories in the state of Michigan. But absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. Wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And so, folks, I want to close out just by challenging you today. What decisions do you need to make? What buses do you need to get off of? What buses do you need to get on? Do you need to change seats? Is your current seat working for you? All right, don't have too much pride. That pride that's rooted in a truly insecurity and a fear of being wrong. And what are people going to say? What are people going to think? What are people going to do? Who cares? Who cares? You know, thinking about what people are going to do, say, and think, okay, that's when you're 12, when you're 16. You know, we can't be going through life as an adult, bound, and living our life, living restricted lives because we're insecure about what somebody's going to say about us. People are going to say what they want to say. People are going to think what they want to think. People are going to do what they want to do. We can't control other people. But what we can do is control ourselves and control our lives and make the best decisions that we can to ensure that we are living a authentic life, a life that's filled with passion, filled with enthusiasm, filled with purpose, and filled with energy and zest, where you're excited to get up every day, you're excited to go and work, you're excited to come home to your family, and whatever the case may be. But folks, it's got to start with us being real. Yes, real with other people, but most importantly, real with ourselves. So that's your problem. If you're struggling today and the lack of authenticity is your problem, folks, I challenge you today with a little personal inspiration that I share with you from my own life. Take the necessary steps to live your best, authentic life now. So that's all I have for you today, folks. I cannot wait until the next series. You stay tuned for that. And remember, I am positively passionate about you, your life, and success. Make it a great day.